Geostrategic Media Center and Political Studies of the Middle East. Before I start, I'd like to comment on what other colleagues have just mentioned in the morning session and now. Regarding the extremism, we have to know that this pyramid depends on three angles, which is nihilism, which means negativism, or emptiness of those people who are recruited to be later on extremists and terrorists. Then the second step, which is extremism, which leads them later on to be terrorists like Daesh and al-Nusra and other groups. This is number one. The more we negativize or empty these people of their social rights, of their economic rights, of their financial rights, of their human rights, of their political rights, the more we will face extremism and later on terrorism. Some countries have managed to address economic issues, financial issues, and political issues, but they are under the threat of extremism and terrorism coming cross borders from other countries. If we look at the case of Syria now, the Syrians, or Syria itself, is a secular regime. But the issue within Syria is based now on sectarian, somehow sectarian, caused by extremism and terrorism, fueled by, let's say, social media, which is injected and supported and funded by other countries, mainly Western countries. To cite an example of how effective the social media into this field, I have to cite two examples. After the Brussels and Paris bombings, the Spanish Minister of Interior, Mr. Diaz, he was quoted saying that 80% of those caught in Spain were recruited via social media. Only 20% are recruited via mosques and prisons. Before 2012, he admitted that social media was playing less role. The pyramid was upside down. It was 80% to 20%. That means 80% 2012 and before recruited via mosques and via prisons, while 20% were recruited via social media. That was the case before 2012. This pyramid has become upside down, which is very dangerous. That means whatever we have to do, we can solve the issue addressing the social media by countering their own narration, what we call it CVE, which is counter-violent extremism. We call it terminologically CVE. Just a few days ago, there was a meeting in Saudi Arabia, and the ministers of foreign affairs, they had a gathering, and they talked about the effect of social media in the Gulf states. And I was happy to listen to some of these speeches by foreign ministers who admitted that Twitter, for example, is very influential now in the Gulf states, but sometimes it is abused by some users. And they quoted some examples used by Daesh and its supporters. One of the officials said about 90,000 tweets per day are published by Daesh and its supporters. This is number one. Number two, more than 150,000 YouTubes are online now for Daesh. They can be banned, they can be, let's say, deleted from the website. Why should they be there? Unless these countries, they keep them for certain purposes. Okay, this is number two. Number three, why did they allow Daesh and its supporters to have a website called Khilafa Book, similar to Facebook? Why did they allow publishing what they call albayan.com, which is a radio station for Daesh. Okay? We know all these servers are in Western states, and they can shut them down if they have the will to do so. But they keep this for a certain purpose. Now, the Europeans, in the beginning, they thought fighting extremism in the Middle East would help them avert or avoid or foil, let's say, any future endeavors or attempts of these extremists to come to Europe and do such bombings. Unlikely. They did that in different places in Brussels, in France, and in other places in Europe, which means it backfired. Unless there is a concerted effort to fight social media, by counter social media, we will be facing the same issue from now until 100 years. Because we are improving in our countering strategies against extremism and terrorism, but these Daesh guys, these Daesh fighters, or Al-Nusra fighters, or these terrorists, they also have the same strategies. They have technocrats. They have experts in technology, in high tech, and they have professionals in internet. They can hack. They hacked some newspapers in the Gulf, Al Jazeera. They hacked some newspapers in the US. So it's easy for them to counter our extremist narration against them. So that's why we should have a kind of concerted effort to address what they publish, not their way only, but our way too, taking into consideration that these have nothing to do with Islam. They are just holding this standard of Islam, but Islam is, really very innocent from such people. Thank you so much.